Morning update Thursday. Paul Lindman here. Scott Lynn's off this week. What seemed like a good investment at the time is now changing the plans of many young adults. We're talking about student loan debt. Do you realize total U.S. student loan debt outstanding topped $1 trillion last year, and it is growing. Something that an Oregon writer and columnist for the Wall Street Journal, Sue Sellenbarger, who writes about work and family issues for the Journal, wrote in a column this week, and she joins us this morning. We've had student loans forever, Sue. What's changed and created such problems for so many young people now?
Tuition costs have risen way up, probably out of proportion to the salaries that most of these young adults can make when they first exit school, especially post-recession. And so we're seeing lifestyle changes that have implications for the economy. The students I interviewed who had enormous student loan burdens were delaying such things as childbirth, marriage, buying a car, buying a house. They just needed to pay off their loans and get their finances under control. And this is what's of concern to both economists and people who follow families.
And you write about people, and this is not out of the norm, working 60 hours a week, working two jobs, just trying to stay ahead of these loans, right?
That's right. The payments among the former students I interviewed were for 40% to 60% of their take-home pay on jobs that made them $20,000 to $30,000 a year. They took second jobs to try to fill the gap. They rented instead of bought houses, postponed childbearing. In one case, a young couple in Chicago sold their condo to move to a rental because they could save $600 a month in hopes of putting away some savings for the first time.
And that's not taking into consideration the fact that many kids getting degrees and advanced degrees aren't finding any work at all these days.
Aren't finding any jobs at all. And these, of course, are the real hard luck stories. I didn't focus on these in this particular piece, but those are the young adults who are really in tough shape.
So what's the take-home message for the class of high school class of 2012 getting ready for college?
We need to shift our view of college from a rite of passage to seeing it as a financial transaction. All the experts I interviewed said that families also need to be more financially literate about taking out loans and not assume that student loans are kind of benign. They're debt you have to pay back. They can't be discharged in bankruptcy, and there's no statute of limitations on collections, so do your homework before you sign any loan papers.
What's the difference between government loans and private loans in these times?
Government loans, especially now, have flexible repayment options, some income-based repayment or forgiveness for public service in some cases. And that's much different than the private loans. Private lenders face much steeper disclosure requirements than they did in the past based on new 2009 regs. They have to tell you over and over that you have other options and to be sure to compare their loans with other options. However, private loans are less flexible. Once you take one out, they can hound you for life for repayment, and oftentimes fees and interest mount so fast that you just can't get ahead of it.
You mentioned counseling for loans. How many kids going to college actually go out and seek counseling, and where do they get it?
The government requires counseling pre and post graduation when you take out the loans and after you graduate, and you go through that process online. And many students, all students do it. Many pay only fleeting attention, unfortunately. Private lenders have disclosure documents that you should and must read, and when they come after you when you graduate for those payments, you're going to learn real fast and have a very steep learning curve. A growing number of colleges and universities, and a very positive trend, are getting students to sit down for one-on-one counseling. Do you understand what you're doing? Have you exhausted your government loan options before taking out private loans? Are there other ways to finance college? Is a parent government loan a better option? This is a good trend, and I think we're going to see sounder decisions being made by families in the future.
How about a trend where people just decide flat out, I'm not going to take on the expense, I'm going to not go to college? Are we going to see those numbers soon?
We are. The email I've received this morning on this story is full of such accounts of people who said, I could go to Duke or I could go to the community college down the road, and I've opted for the latter for a while. I don't want any debt at all. And I think we're going to see a much smarter generation of college students in the future.
Sue Sellenbarger, she is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal, writes about work and family issues. Sue, thanks for talking to us this morning.
My pleasure, Paul.